ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरकृष्णे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्ता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Welcome to the class. We are studying Sri Ishopanishad. Last week we started the discussion on topic of cultivating knowledge and ignorance, Vidya and Avidya together. In Mantra 9, we discussed that on material platform, both Avidya and Vidya are Avidya. Then when you come to spiritual platform, then there is Avidya, which is spiritual ignorance, and Vidya, which is spiritual knowledge. So one of them gives a certain result, the other one gives an opposite result. Here in mantra number 11 now, we see that it is said one should cultivate both of these together. So if we don't understand this mantra with the purport given by Srila Prabhupada, we may come to a wrong conclusion that one should engage in sinful activities and pious activities together. And some people even think like that. So we'll discuss more on that later. This mantra talks about relativity of material and spiritual knowledge. How one must know the relative positions of material and spiritual knowledge to transcend the material energy and attain deathlessness. Let's look at the mantra. Vidyam cha yas tadvedo bhayam saha avidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam ritamashnuте. Vidyam cha avidyam cha yas tadvedo bhayam saha. The translation is that one should try to understand Vidya and Avidya, both of them together. I'll read the translation for all of you. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. This mantra is engaging people to understand nescience, which is ignorance, as well as understand I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Okay, so let me share the slide again. Srila Prabhupada explains, so you must know two things. What is Maya and Krishna? Then your knowledge is perfect. Lecture, Los Angeles, 1970. Understanding Maya here does not mean we have to engage in Maya. Some people may derive a wrong conclusion here that when it is said you should learn avidya and vidya together, then it means that you should engage in activities of avidya. Some people also say, since the world is made up of good and bad both, so you should also experience some bad, because until and unless you experience something bad, you won't be able to appreciate the good. Or because it's a world full of good and bad, so little bad is allowed. There is no problem in that. There is nothing wrong with ignorance. There is nothing wrong with deviation. There is nothing wrong with being offensive. As long as you have transcendental knowledge, it's all fine. Or people even can say, we can sin now, and then later on we'll overcome the reactions of our sinful activities by some form of austerity, penance, etc. But correct understanding is we should learn avidya in order to avoid it, not to engage in it. We should know what is wrong so that we can avoid it. Not because we have to go through the experience of it. Not required. It's not required to experience it. So, like you might have heard, there is one organization based on the name of the leader of that organization, Osho. So Osho's philosophy was that one should engage in sense gratification in abundance, so that one day you'll become frustrated of sense gratification. And then you will think about liberation from material life. But that's not the philosophy which Vaishnavas promote, because it's not that our finger has to get burned for us to wake up to spiritual reality. Foolish people think so, that bad material experience is the best impetus for spiritual life. But it is not so. Bad material experience might become an impetus for liberation, but bad material experience can never become the true impetus for pure devotional service. Right? Some people think so. Let us enjoy like hell, and then we will be able to give it up. I'll be able to come out of it. So acharyas, they say then pigs should be the most renounced people in the world. Pigs should be the most renounced living entity, because they indiscriminately go through sense gratification. Now, medical science says indulgence in any form of addiction is resulting into greater dependence upon that particular addiction. Same thing with sense gratification. The more a living entity engages in sense gratification, the tendency to enjoy matter increases. It doesn't decrease. It becomes a disease of the living entity then. That's why sometimes even devotees, they think that I can wait for a certain age. Till that, let me enjoy this world. And then after that, I have gone through all those experiences. Then I'll devote myself fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. But they are not understanding this point, that the more we spend our time in association with matter, the more we become prone to temptation from material objects. It's not that you become free from it, you become more dependent on it. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said that from the age of 5, you should take up Krishna consciousness, because if you don't do that, then your affinity for spiritual life, for spiritual knowledge, for spiritual happiness will be zero, and you will be able to only appreciate material happiness. Right. So therefore, there are two terms, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti marg, the path of pravritti, and nivritti marg, the path of nivritti. Pravritti marg is or Vidya is Pravritti Marg. It means what we should engage in. And we should be aware of the philosophy, the Siddhanta. Nivritti Marg is what we should avoid. And we should also be careful that Maya will always try to trick us and capture us into doing that particular activity. Because this realm in which we are living, this is the kingdom of Maya, material energy of Krishna. So when a devotee is trying to engage in spiritual activities, it's like you are going opposite the current of Maya. You are trying to escape the current of Maya. So Maya will always try to pull you back in that same energy fold, so that you cannot go out of it. It will try to always bring you back, that please come back to my zone, my area, and remain like that, don't change. So this is what is explained here. There are so many more good points, but I'll come to that later. Let us now look at the purpose. Srila Prabhupada first of all emphasizes on why we should try to become immortal. And he says that's what everyone wants to be actually. So he begins on that note, right, from the first paragraph. Okay, Gopi Manohar Prabhu, first paragraph. Are you speaking, Prabhu? Gopi Manohar. Cannot hear you. You are on mute, Prabhu. You are on mute.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. But the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hand of death. No one wants to die, nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The laws of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death, nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. Material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from the cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. Hare Krishna.
Next paragraph. Now Sripad gives an example of someone who also in the past tried to overcome this problem of death, and who was much more powerful than any human being present on the planet at present, demoniacally speaking. So he tried, but he failed. And that example is of Hiranyakashipu. Venkat Bhatt Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. From the Puranas, we learn of the activities of Hiranyakashipu, a king who was very much advanced materially, wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and the strength of his nations. He underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary system became disturbed by his mystic powers. He forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amara, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction because even he, the material creator who rules all planets, is not Amara. As confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita 8.17, Brahma lives a long life, but that does not mean he is immoral. Hare Krishna.
Can you now give me some examples how the modern man is trying to overcome death? what steps are we taking? It's not that
Medicines,
sorry,
modern
Prabhu?
surgeries,
Surgeries,
modern
Surgeries.
like
What else?
transplantations.
Transplantations. What else?
Going to other planets.
Trying to go to other planets, imagining that there you will not die. What else?
Stem cell therapy.
Okay.
Cosmetic
What?
industries whole depends on
Cryogenics.
Yeah,
The
what
entire
else?
pharma industry.
The entire pharma industry is based on that. What else?
scientists are also trying to mix some breed with each other.
Yes, yes, and they are saying we will have anti-aging cream, anti-aging medicine that will not make you grow old. If you don't grow old, you are not going to die.
Cloning.
Cloning. What else? That's okay. That's for your, for saving yourself from disease. But then otherwise, inventing weapons and all of that, that is also to protect oneself from death, no? That I might die because of my neighboring country. So if they try to attack me, I'll attack them. I'll kill them first. That is also actually a solution for overcoming one's own death. What else? Why everyone wants to be economically more powerful? The countries want to be economically more powerful than other countries. Why? At the end, it is about who will survive and how will I survive.
Supremacy also.
Supremacy. So, these are all ways in which a human being tries to overcome death. But Srila says by material means you cannot. Not possible. One cannot. Through material means one cannot. And that's why he's quoting an example of Hiranyakashipu. He said he was very smart. He also wanted to overcome death. And what he did, modern human being cannot do that also. Right? But still he had to die. Which means he's not saying that you cannot overcome death. He's just saying that the way you are trying to overcome death is not possible. If you want to overcome death, then there is another way given by Lord Krishna. Why not follow that particular path? Why not accept that path? So this is the art of basically preaching. When you preach to people, we have to identify people's problem statement. What is your problem statement? What solution? What are you looking for? And then we have to educate them that the way you are trying to solve a problem is not the right solution, but the scriptures, they give you the solution for that problem. Adopt that solution. In that way, you can be benefited. So if you study Prabhupada books very carefully, he first of all identifies a problem statement. What is the problem? And then because we are so ignorant, we don't even understand our problems. So first of all, he educates us. Please try to understand, this is your problem. And then after you start accepting it, yes, this is the problem. This is what I am actually looking for. Then he'll give us a solution from the Vedic scriptures. Now this is the solution, right? Like how many of us really saw death as a problem so much before reading Bhaktivedanta purports? For us, it was like, yeah, everyone dies. So what's so, abnormal about it? I will also die someday. And when that moment will come, we'll think about it at that time. And why worry about it now, right? So not everyone sees it as a problem. So first of all, he educates. See, try to understand. Death is a problem. Try to understand disease is a problem. Try to understand old age is a problem. And after you start understanding it, then he says, accept this solution which I'm offering to you from the Vedic scriptures. That's his approach. Accept the solution. Now you may say, no, I'll try to find out my own solution. So then he'll give arguments how we'll fail if we try to find our own solutions. So this is what he did here. Next paragraph. Hanisha Mataji. Are you there, Hanisha Mataji?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Hiranya means gold
Kashipu means soft paid. This cunning gentleman, Hiranyakashipu, was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted
Is your internet not good, Mataji?
desired to become immortal. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, your voice is breaking.
Maybe it's not Krishna.
Someone else can read the next. Vaiji Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall I start from the beginning or where she left?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman, Hiranyakashipu, was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 84 lakh species. He also asked that he not die on land, in the air or water, or by any weapon. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Nrsimha, the Lord's half lion, half man incarnation, and no weapons was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's names. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of that wonderful living being Nrsimha, who was beyond his conception. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? Okay, next paragraph. Varsana Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sri Ishopanishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Next paragraph. Dev Prabhu.
The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from revealed Vedic scriptures such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad-gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary places of his birth as all in all. The Lord has kindly delivered the above mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. From his kingdom of personality of Godhead, sends his bona fide servants to propagate this message by which one can return to Godhead. And sometimes the Lord comes himself to do this work. Since all living beings are his beloved sons, his parts and parcels, God is most sorry than we ourselves to see the sufferings we are constantly undergoing in this material condition. The miseries of this material world serve to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. Intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of Vidya, or transcendental knowledge. Human life is the best opportunity for the culture of spiritual knowledge, and a human being who does not take advantage of this opportunity is called a Naradhama, the lowest of human beings. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So I hope if you have attentively read and heard the paragraphs, you might have seen the connection. Srila Prabhupada first of all gave a problem statement called death. Then he explained how by our endeavors we cannot solve that problem. And then he gives solution. Solution is given where? It is given by the Lord in the Vedic scriptures. Right? He gave the solution. See, when we are reading these mantras, the purports, you should learn from Srila Prabhupada the art of writing an essay. Essay is nothing but this only. This is an essay what he has written, you know. So we should follow that style, that our essay should be very systematically developed. And what point we want to convey to the audience, in what way we are going to convey it to the audience, you know, what approach we'll take. So here you see, his essay is so beautiful. We can very clearly find the connection, the flow, everything. So here he first gave the problem statement, which is everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. Why? No one wants to die. Can advances of material knowledge solve it? No. In fact, it increments it. Example he gave of Hiranyakashipu. Then he gave the solution. Solution is given by the Lord. What does he do? The Lord gives us Vedic scriptures to remind the forgetful living entity. And he sends reminders, which are, he sends his bona fide servants. He comes himself and he gives us miseries. So that miseries awaken us to the reality that material world is not a happy place. Now, what do we have to do? Two things, he says. Prepare yourself to go back to Godhead and study the scriptures. Fine. And so in a very beautiful manner, he has covered the topic of how to become immortal. You are interested in immortality. So this is what he explains on that subject. Someone questioned, how does Lord Brahma die? Sita Mataji. When you are saying how, I mean, I'm not able to understand. You really want to know the process of his death? Or
Prabhu, when it says that, even when Lord Brahma says that even he himself is not immortal, so that it means he has to, there's a point of death in his long life. So does he just disappear from existence? Or
see, different living entities, they die in different manners. Like, for example, people living on the earthly plane, when they die, then they leave behind a gross body made of 5 elements, right? But then there are entities whose body is not gross as our body. Like the demigods, their body is not as gross as our body. So Brahma's body is made up of intelligence. So when he gives up the body, it's not made up of 5 material elements that the body will become separated from him, and then that body has to be cremated or buried or something like that, you know. His body is made up of intelligence, which is a subtle element, which means it almost as if he disappears from there, evaporates from there. As soon as the soul leaves the body evaporates. It mixes with the elements of intelligence. Fine, because their body is different in our body. Yes, Bhakti Mataji. Atmahana, Naradhama is same. Here reference is same.
Okay, thank you.
Let's read further. Next paragraph. Now, the path of avidya, what is that? Which should be avoided. Ritesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The part of avidya, or advancement of material knowledge for sense gratification is the path of repeated birth and death. As he exists spiritually, the living entity has no birth or death. Birth and death apply to the outward covering of the spirit soul, the body. That is compared to the taking off and birth to the putting on of outward garments. Foolish human beings who are grossly absorbed in the culture of avidya, nescience, do not mind this cruel process. Enamored with the beauty of the illusory energy, they undergo the same miseries repeatedly and do not learn any lessons from the laws of nature. Hare Krishna.
Next paragraph. Gita-gamiya 𝗪𝗵𝘁.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I can't see the paragraph. Okay. Therefore, the culture of Vidya or transcendental knowledge is essential for the human being. Sense enjoyment in the deceased material condition must be restricted as far as possible. Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this bodily condition is the path of ignorance and death. The living entities are not without spiritual senses. Every living being in his original spiritual form has all the senses, which are now materially manifested, being covered by the material body and mind. The activities of the material senses are perverted reflections of the activities of the original spiritual senses. In his deceased condition, the spirit soul engages in material activities under the material covering. Real sense enjoyment is possible only when the disease of materialism is removed. In our pure spiritual form, free from all material contamination, real enjoyment of the senses is possible. A patient must regain his health before he can truly enjoy sense pleasure again. Thus, the aim of the human life should not be to enjoy perverted sense enjoyment, but to cure the material disease. Aggravation of the material disease is no sign of knowledge, but a sign of avidya, ignorance. For good health, a person should not increase his fever from 105 degrees to 107 degrees, but should reduce his temperature to the normal 98.6. That should be the aim of human life. The modern trend of material civilization is to increase the temperature of the feverish material condition, which has reached the point of 107 degrees in the form of atomic energy. Meanwhile, the foolish politicians are crying that at any moment the world may go to hell. That is the result of the advancement of material knowledge and the neglect of the most important part of life, the culture of spiritual knowledge. Sri Ishopanishad here warns that we must not follow this dangerous path leading to death. On the contrary, we must develop the culture of spiritual knowledge so that we may become completely free from the cruel hands of death. Hare Krishna.
The path of Vidya is essential. So Sripad says that actual sense gratification is to make the spiritual senses happy, not the material senses. And then he gives very nice example of a person who has, let's say, fever. So, this example is so beautiful. Like he will further explain the same example. But we have a normal body temperature, which is 98.6, right? Isn't it? Fahrenheit. That's the normal temperature in which the body functions the best. If the temperature goes below 98.6, you are not healthy, you're sick. If the temperature goes above 98.6, you are not healthy, you are sick. So he says similarly, because we have a material body, we need to take care of the body. You cannot neglect it. And at the same time, you should not take too much care of it, more than required. So material sense gratification means what? I need a particular amount of sense indulgence just to keep the senses alive and the body strong. But I do engage my senses more than that. So he's comparing that to increasing the fever of material enjoyment. Temperature is going up higher and higher and higher and higher. And the other aspect of it is what? That there are some people who say completely deny sense indulgence. The impersonalists, the Mayavadis. Then he says, okay, that is like bringing the temperature below 98.6. That will also not help. So Vaishnavas, they don't completely deny sense indulgence. They only accept whatever is required, the bare minimum. The bare minimum. That much. Not more than that, not less than that. So he gives a beautiful example of body temperature. It should not be more than 98.6. Should not be less than 98.6. It should be the optimal figure. Next paragraph. Yes, now he explains the next aspect. Annapurna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This does not mean that all activities for the maintenance of the body should be stopped. There is no question of stopping activities, just as there is no question of wiping out one's temperature altogether when trying to recover from a disease. To make the best use of a bad bargain is the appropriate expression. The culture of spiritual knowledge necessitates the help of the body and mind. Therefore, maintenance of the body and mind is required if we are to reach our goal. The normal temperature should be maintained at 98.6 degrees. And the great sages and saints of India have attempted to do this by a balanced program of spiritual and material knowledge. They never allow the misuse of human intelligence for disease sense gratification.
Yes. Okay, so we'll discuss the section of it later. I have a question asked to all of you. Please mute yourself. So here we understood that there are two things. One is what I should do. The other is what I should not do. And if done does not develop the knowledge of why I should not do what I'm not supposed to do, and why I should do what I'm supposed to do. If one does not develop such kind of knowledge, what will happen?
You will be considered
the
ignorant.
results of the things we are not supposed to do.
Two people talking at the same time. Can one of you say, please?
Yeah, if he will be considered ignorant, and he will be actually working like an animal. Basically, he will be behaving like an animal. He's not making use of his intelligence.
Ashok Prabhu.
When we do the things which we are not supposed to do, probably those material things we will get attached to the results of that. That will create bondage.
My question is, we know what is to be done, we know what is not to be done, but we don't know why. What will be the consequence?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
He will be called not in perfect knowledge.
That's not the consequence. That whatever someone calls him, that doesn't matter. I'm asking about for him, what will be the consequence? Sanit Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Won't be able to follow.
We will not have faith on it and will not follow it, and we'll go back to what we were doing earlier.
Yeah,
if
okay.
we don't know the reason why.
Correct. So if I don't know why I should be doing it, I'll not be convinced. I'll not be convinced. My faith will not be strong, right? And then I'll easily fall prey to illusion because I don't know why I should not be doing it. So when it comes to educating people on both of these aspects, the right and the wrong, vidya and avidya, we have to not just tell people what they should not be doing. We also have to explain to them why they should not be doing it. Now, this is a big mistake which parents do, that after the child child grows to a certain age, they still think that now also my child is a baby and I don't have to tell my child why he or she should not be doing something. Because when the child is a baby, you don't have to give reasons to that child. You just tell the baby, don't touch this. The baby does not touch. Don't do this, the baby does not do. Even if you explain, the baby will not understand, right? But when the child grows to a certain age, after that, if you start telling, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, do this, now the child needs something more. And what is that? Why I should do this? Why I should not do this? The child needs that because that intellectual faculty is now developed, right? So one has to also similarly in spiritual life understand, why am I chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? How does this process work? Why should I avoid the offenses while chanting the holy name? Why I should follow 4 regulative principles? Why? So I have to understand it. If I don't understand why am I doing what I am doing, like I have to do seva for Krishna, for devotees. Why should I do seva? I have to preach Krishna consciousness. Why should I preach the message of Krishna consciousness? So asking this why is very essential, very important. To be always convinced about what we are doing. And the more we understand the importance of something, sometimes the potency of that activity becomes multiplied. I might be doing a particular activity with 10% faith. And when I start doing the same activity with 50% faith, the result will be 5 times more. Because the result is not just coming from the activity, faith is also a very important ingredient while performing that activity. Right? And when my faith is 100%, then that activity will give me 10 times, 20 times, 50 times more benefit. So one has to know why. If our understanding does not grow, then we can even find ourselves leaving the process. So when we are educating people, when you are guiding someone, let's say you're counseling someone, you are helping that person to take the baby steps in Krishna consciousness. So let's take the example of a child. If you are always telling the child, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, what happens is, then that child becomes dysfunctional. Dysfunctional doesn't mean that that child will not be able to function on physical realm, but that child becomes intellectually crippled. Because you are making all the decisions for that child. You're not allowing that child to make his or her own decisions. Right? The problem with that is, now the child may not do the wrong things, but the child will also lose the enthusiasm to do the right things because you have stolen away or hijacked the intelligence of that child. So that child will not be then an independently thoughtful person. Sripad said, those who are independently thoughtful people, they can do something very nice for themselves and for the world. But if they are not independently thoughtful, then they cannot do much. And this is what happens when we are educating people. So we have to avoid both the extremes. When you are telling people what should be done, what should not be done, avoid excessive discipline and avoid excessive freedom. This mistake can be done by a parent. This mistake can be done by a teacher. This mistake can be done by a counselor. This mistake can be done by a guru. That you give excessive freedom to your students, children, or you are excessively trying to discipline them and you don't give them any freedom. In both ways, we ruin that person. Right? We ruin that person. So the best practice is what? That we teach people what is to be done, but then you allow the people to make their own decisions. This may seem like, you're not very caring and protective, but it's not like that. You are letting people grow at their pace and developing their own intelligence. So when we come across a bona fide teacher or spiritual master, we might be expecting that that teacher or spiritual master will tell us every single thing what we should be doing and every single thing what we should not be doing. And every time we do a mistake, that person will correct us or stop us. But actually, those who are bona fide teachers or spiritual masters, their style is not this. Their style is something like that of Lord Krishna. What is that? Teach the whole Bhagavad-gita and then tell Arjuna, now you do whatever you think is correct. Your choice. Now, if you burn the finger, your problem, not my problem. It's your choice now. So this is very important for us to understand, because it puts the whole onus of spiritual life on your shoulder. It's you who have to play that game, not that your spiritual master will play that game for you. No, it's you who will play that game. You need to know the rules. And if you play well, you win. If you don't play well, you lose. He's not going to play for you, right? He's going to just help you. Like, I'll tell you a very interesting point regarding this. You see, there was a movie. There's an actor, his name is Will Smith, right? He's Afro-American person. And he did this movie, The Legend of the Bagger Vance. So this movie is actually completely based on a golf game. Golf is the game. That's the whole movie about. And Will Smith is the caddy. Caddy is the coach of the person who is the golfer. So caddy carries the sticks of the golfer, the balls of the golfer, and he's always with the golfer. So this person who wrote down this script, he's very intelligent. He studied Bhagavad-gita as it is. And he found Bhagavad-gita as it is not Bhagavad-gita as it is, studied Bhagavad-gita and found it very beautiful. So he thought, now I want to recreate the whole message, but not on the situation of a war field, but in a game, in a sport. So then he was thinking, which sport will be able to perfectly fit this kind of setup? Football? No, too many players, And then badminton? No. Tennis? No. And then he thought about golf. Said, just like on this battlefield, there is Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna is not fighting, but Krishna is always with Arjuna, guiding Arjuna. Similarly, in the game of golf, the player is playing and the coach is always walking with the player, guiding the player, encouraging, motivating, don't do this, don't do that, helping. But the coach does not do anything else. So then he came up with this whole scenario and he wrote down that script. It's a beautiful script. If you watch that movie, I mean, you don't need to watch it, but if you watch that movie, then you'll understand that he has presented the message of Bhagavad-gita in a different scenario, very nicely, but not so openly, like Lord Krishna said or Arjuna said, just the message. And there's some impersonal touch to it also. So this is exactly how a true guru will do with us in our life. We may have wrong expectations, thinking that our spiritual master will take hold of our hand and will make us walk the whole path. He'll not let us fall down any time. But it's not like that. If you want to fall down, he'll drop you also. Okay, you want to fall down? Fall down. He'll drop you also. Because it's a path which you need to walk and you need to learn how to walk. He's just there to help you, guide you, like Krishna did for Arjuna. Arjuna, after all, it's your battle, not my battle. You have to decide what to do, right? So it brings the onus on you, on your shoulder. And that's why you need to understand very well. Means a student has to understand very well, a devotee, what this process is, how it works. People sometimes have a misunderstanding. So here, therefore, we have to think like this, understand like this. Okay, let's read the next paragraph. Tulsi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, can you just give me an indication? It's human activities, Prabhu?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Pranams to everyone. Human activities diseased by a tendency towards sense gratification have been regulated in the Vedas under the principles of salvation. This system employs religion, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. But at the present moment, people have no interest in religion or salvation. They have only one aim in life, sense gratification. And in order to achieve this end, they make plans for economic development. Misguided men think that religion should be maintained because it contributes to economic development, which is required for sense gratification. Thus, in order to guarantee further sense gratification after death, in heaven, there is some system of religious observance. But this is not the purpose of religion. The path of religion is actually meant for self-realization, and economic development is required just to maintain the body in a sound, healthy condition. A man should lead a healthy life with a sound mind just to realize vidya, true knowledge, which is the aim of human life. This life is not meant for working like an ass or for culturing avidya for sense gratification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada is explaining something from the Vedic perspective. See, in the Vedic scriptures, these four principles are explained: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma means religious life, artha means economic development, kama means fulfilling one's material desires, moksha means liberation. Okay. The actual process of this is what? Our artha should be based on dharma. Even kama, regulated sense gratification, should be on the basis of dharma. And dharma should at the end take us to moksha, final work. In the present times, what has happened to this is dharma for artha, artha for kama. That's the only aim. Moksha, don't talk about it. So this is the modern approach to even religious life. Religious life. That why I should be religious? Because it helps me to be economically developed. Why economic development? Because it gives me happiness, sense gratification. That's the aim of life. But actually, it should not be like that. Economic development and sense gratification should be in a way to support dharma, duty. And then that should lead to liberation, right? Isn't it? Like, how many of you heard your parents tell you when you were small kids that you are not hungry, and still the parent would say, no, eat something and then you sleep. Say, I'm not hungry, I don't feel like eating. You have to eat. It's not tasty, still you have to eat, right? So there you can understand that sense gratification of eating is not just because you like to eat or you not like to eat, or you enjoy that particular food or you don't enjoy that particular food. The purpose of sense gratification is you eat, you'll have a good health, you'll not get weak, you'll rest properly, and then you can do your other duties well. That was the purpose of eating. Not because it is tasty, then only I'm going to eat. I like this particular food, then I'm going to eat. No, you have to eat as a matter of duty, whether you feel hungry or you're not hungry. So sense gratification is for what? For dharma. It's for dharma. That it will help you to perform your duties. However, the trend is changing. No, it should be not like that. Everything should be just for the sake of sense gratification. Anything I do should be only for this goal. And how do we get educated into that kind of thinking? Through whatever information is thrown upon us, through the media, through the movies, through the songs, through the books we read, through the culture that pervades the whole atmosphere around us. This is what people are taught, directly or indirectly. And that's what then becomes the goal of life. Next paragraph. Path of Vidya. Okay, Satish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. The path of Vijay is most perfectly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, which directs a human being to utilize his life to inquire into the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized step by step as Brahman, Paramatma, and finally Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is realized by the broad-minded man who has attained knowledge and a detachment by following the 18 principles of Bhagavad-gita, described in the purport to the mantra 10. The central purpose of these 18 principles is the attainment of transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Therefore, all classes of men are encouraged to learn the art of devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And the process of Vidya is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada quotes this verse. Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan satvatam pati shrotavya kirtitavyascha dheya putyascha nityada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So this mantra ends here. We have to cultivate Vidya and Avidya together, which means don't engage in the activities of Avidya, know them to avoid them, and engage in the activities of Vidya. In this way, you grow in your Krishna consciousness. So we educate people, both the do's and the don'ts. This is wrong, why it is wrong. This is correct, why it is correct. Right? Like once His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, quite an intellectual in our organization, he was asked this question, very nicely he replied. He was asked this question, he was asked in a challenging mood that, you people are monks, brahmacharis, and you also have sannyasis in your movement. So why in your texts like Bhagavatam, Puranas, there is mention of, men and women having illicit relationship, there are stories about it, So his question was like, why do people discuss so much about sex or sexual indulgence? Is it not unhealthy for you? You are monks, you should not be talking about it, reading about it, thinking about it, right? That's against maintaining celibacy. So why it is given in the scripture so much? Better don't discuss about it. And then when the same thing is shown in the movie, then you say that is wrong. But when it's given in the scripture, then you don't say it's wrong. So it was a bit challenging question. And he gave a beautiful answer. Prabhuji gave a very beautiful answer. He said, what is more correct? That you discuss about it and then you don't engage in it? Or you don't talk about it, but you live your life like an animal? What is better? Isn't it? So what is wrong? There's nothing wrong about talking about it. If you talk about it, it's not a crime. It's not a crime. But because if it is wrong, it should be discussed. It should be discussed. And we should also understand why it is to be avoided. How is it unhealthy? So he gave a brilliant reply. So we study what is wrong, but we study it not to engage in it. And people are in ignorance. They don't know what is right, what is wrong. And they continue to do the wrong activities and cause themselves so much harm. So this is the essence of this mantra. We will take some questions if you have on this mantra before we go to the next one after the break. So can we take questions now? Then we'll go for the break. If you have a question, you can raise your hand, please. Otherwise, put your hand down. No question. So let's take a break. We'll meet after the break.
Hare
Hare Krishna, welcome back. Mantra 12. New topic, mantra 12, 13, 14 talks about the relative and the actual religiosity or worship. Just like we had Vidya and Avidya, so this is here presenting the contrast between real worship and false worship. In Sanskrit, the two words are Sambhutim and Asambhutim. These three mantras are exactly like the previous three mantras. Only the topic is different, but the approach is similar. Mantra 12, mantra 13, mantra 14. So mantra 12 talks about improper conceptions of the absolute truth and proper conceptions of the absolute truth. Improper conception of the absolute truth is binding in nature. Let's look at the mantra. Andham tama praveshanti ye sambhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya usambhutyamrataha. So you can note down, here there are two words, sambhutim and asambhutim. In mantra 12, asambhuti refers to demigods. Sambhuti refers to impersonal conception of the absolute truth. And both are wrong. Then in mantra 13, asambhuti refers to anything other than absolute truth, and sambhuti refers to personality of Godhead. And this is like correct, material and spiritual. And 14 mantra says you should have knowledge of both of them. In this way, you can attain liberation or immortality. Similar structure, just like 9, 10, 11. Similar structure. So we'll study this thoroughly. Sambhuti and asambhuti. So what do different acharyas talk about it? This is again very important to understand. Madhvacharya, he says something about asambhuti and sambhuti. Let's read the differences mentioned here in the table. Rupanshi Mataji, can you read the two columns? Wait a second, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandat Pranam. Madhvacharya, Asambhuti, who worship the Lord as the destroyer of misery and ignorance. Sambhuti, who worship the Lord as only the creator of bliss and knowledge.
Yeah, very important. Please try to understand. Madhvacharya's teachings are so helpful, but they are very deep, and it really needs good contemplation to understand them. So he says, who worship the Lord as the destroyer of misery and ignorance, that person is not doing correct worship. Like there are so many people who will pray to Krishna, please remove my suffering, please remove my disease, please remove my sorrow. So someone who is destroying your inauspicious elements in your life. Okay. Then there's someone else who is worshipping the Lord as only the creator of bliss and knowledge. So their understanding is what? God made this world for our enjoyment. So we should enjoy. So Krishna give me happiness. Krishna give me prosperity. Krishna give me good wife, good husband, good family, good children. One approach is what? You destroy my suffering. Other approach is what? You create my happiness. All right. You find mostly materialistic people who worship God. They approach God for either of these two reasons. There's no third reason. Right. For either of these two reasons. Now, what Madhvacharya says is, in this way, what happened is that when they say to the Lord, you just destroy my suffering, they do not accept the creatorship of the Lord. And when they just tell to Krishna, you create happiness for me, they do not accept the destructive potency of Krishna. Consequence, what happens? Please try to understand. It's very important because this understanding can help us develop a more correct attitude in our approach to Krishna consciousness. Consequence. What is the consequence of having this kind of mentality, the first kind of mentality? Kunal Prabhu, please read. You have to unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So Asambhuti do not accept the creatorship.
Consequence.
A consequence. Such belief would lead to destruction of sinful qualities in the person, but keeps him bound in the world.
Okay, so if I pray to Krishna, oh, I have so much lust, I have so much anger, I have so much greed, so much envy, so much pride, please destroy all these bad qualities in me. Fine, Krishna can do that. So all the sinful qualities in me will get destroyed, but it will not take me out of the world. It will still keep me inside the world only. The other approach, the right side, what will happen in that? Ragini Mataji, please read. Consequence. Sanadani Dev, please read.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Would lead to apparent development of good qualities, but these would be unsteady because sinful qualities would also be present.
Yes. Yeah. So someone who prays to Krishna that give me the good things, so that person will get those good things, but the sinful tendency in the heart will not get destroyed. Fine. This is Madhvacharya's explanation. So what is the teaching here? The Lord should be accepted as the creator of auspiciousness and the destroyer of inauspiciousness, both together. In that way, the benefit is complete. Complete benefit. So I should not just pray to Krishna that remove the anarthas from my heart. I should also pray to Krishna positively, that Krishna give me your loving devotional service. Not just one part, the other part also, right? Remove the bad from me, but not just that alone. Also give the good to me, the good qualities to me. That's the balanced approach to be followed. Next, Vedanta Deshika. What is Asambhuti? Vishvanatha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Who engage solely in meditating on destroying the unfavorable elements to attainment of the Lord.
Yeah, something very similar. And next is, please read the next one also, Vishwanatha Prabhu.
Who engage solely in meditating for attaining the Lord.
Teaching. In these three mantras, the Guru teaches that the process of destroying obstacles and experiencing Paramatma should be practiced in a combined form as parts of the cultivation of knowledge. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yes. Dendi Sati Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Those who worship the impersonal feature of God, Asambhuti. Sambhuti, those who are absorbed in matter.
Please read this also.
When an object loses its qualities, bhuti, it becomes asambhuti. It occurs by destruction or merging. Those who cultivate the impersonal aspect of the Lord are such worshippers. In that state, the jiva's consciousness of his existence disappears.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Fine. So this is what the acharyas have explained to us regarding these two terminologies. Let's read Srila Prabhupada's translation. We are at mantra 12. Those who are engaged in worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so to the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. So who goes to a worse destination or a worse destination? The impersonalists, the impersonal worshippers, then the demigod worshippers, right? They go to a more low destination. But here the impersonalists refer to whom?
The Sambhutis.
Here the impersonalist refers to whom? Which kind of impersonalist is considered lesser than the demigod worship?
The one who
Nirakar.
worship the impersonal form.
That's the definition of impersonalist.
Mayavadis?
Which, yeah, Mayavadis. So Mayavadis go to a lower region than the worshippers of demigods. Impersonalists are of two types. We have discussed that before. Okay, we'll touch upon that again. So Sripad gives some explanation about demigod worship here. For those who have studied Bhagavad-gita, you know it. For those who are going to study Bhagavad-gita, we'll discuss it. So we'll not go into details into this purport so much. Okay. Okay, let's read this paragraph. It's Shravani Mataji. Please read from here. Sri Ishopanishad points out.
Sri Ishopanishad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to their material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and the moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is the vast and unlimited Brahma Jyotir expansion, which is filled with Vaikuntha Lokas. The biggest and highest planet in the Brahma Jyotir is Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavana, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself resides. Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka. Although he dwells there with his eternal associates, he is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like Prabhu Little. Yet, just like the sun, yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So when it is said that the demigod worshippers go to darkness, it means what?
They will be coming to the material world, always.
Thank you, Maharaj. It means they will take birth again and again in material world. And material world is a dark place. It's a dark place. That's why Prabhupada gave the example that this place does not have illumination without the sun or moon. It's a dark place. It needs sun or moon for illumination. So they come back to material world again and again. They take birth again and again. That's the problem. And those who are impersonalists or Mayavadis, they go to a darker place. What is that? Then what can be more darker than the material world?
Hell, Prabhuji.
Hell, sir.
Hellish planets.
Hellish planets, yeah.
Hellish planets. Okay. Fine. They go to hellish planets. All right. Thank you. Okay. Let's read this paragraph. Alok Prabhuji, you can read, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The ignorant pseudo-religionist and the manufacturer of so-called incarnations who directly violates the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods, according to the scriptural recommendation. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshipping demigods under certain circumstances. But at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad-gita 7.23, it is clearly stated that the result derived from the worshipping the demigods are permanent, since the entire material universe is impermanent. When whatever it is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real and permanent life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So impersonalism, as I mentioned, it is of two types. So impersonalists are of two types. One are called Brahmavadis, the other are called Mayavadis. Brahmavadis, they don't commit offense to the form of Krishna, but Mayavadis, they commit offense to the form of Krishna. So basically, the Mayavadis, they say that the Lord's form is Maya, or his form is just like ours. That's a disrespectful comment. Brahmavadis are those who do not know that the Lord has a form, or who have not yet developed attraction towards that form, but have developed attraction towards the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So here the Mayavadis, they go to a lower destination than the demigod worshippers. The Brahmavadis, they go to a higher destination, which is they become liberated and they merge into Brahmajyoti. However, for Vaishnavas, though that's a higher destination compared to living inside the material world, for Vaishnavas, that is also a lower destination, because Vaishnavas would be happy to live in material world as long as they are serving Krishna within the material world. For them, service is more important. Whether it is happening in the spiritual world or in the material world, that's not the main concern. What is more important is they are able to engage in devotional service to Krishna. In modern times in India, what has happened is we are Mayavadis, a hodgepodge of everything. So the current Indian scenario is because of these factors. What are they? First of all, because we all are conditioned souls, so naturally we have envy towards Krishna, because we are conditioned souls. So that is there in our heart, without any other possibility. So first problem is that because we are naturally envious of Krishna, we would not be happy to know Krishna as a form. We will deny Krishna a form. Why should Krishna have a form? Krishna should not have a form. Fine. Next, after that, years and years, decades and decades, centuries and centuries of study of the Vedic scriptures from impersonalist perspective. So that has then aggravated the disease. Yes, God is formless. Krishna is formless. Though the Vedas also say God has a form, but too much emphasis by Shankaracharya and his followers on the impersonal aspects of absolute truth. So the mind has become more corrupted. Then came the, this is coming from the Upanishads. Then came in India an era when the Britishers started ruling over the country. With Britishers came Christianity. With Christianity came this false conception. What is that? You serve mankind, and that is service to God. This is too much emphasized in Christianity. You serve your neighbors, you serve people around you, you provide food to the hungry, one who does not have a house, you give that person a house. For them, service is so, the definition of service goes to the extent that if someone is a drunkard and today is not getting a bottle to drink, then your service would be to buy a bottle of wine and give to that person, because you have helped that person to become happy. So that is service for them. So then this element also came inside the mentality of Indians. social service. Very important. We should serve humanity. We should serve people around us. That is service to God. You know? And then last thing which came was the nationalist mentality. We should protect the land in which we are born, right? Protect your land, protect the land from the invaders who are of a different religion. So what is religiosity? Religiosity means you protect your land. Bharat Mata ki jai, right? So you make Bharat Mata and then you start worshipping Bharat Mata. You protect your land. So the modern Hindu is this. A modern Hindu is a combination of all of this. Right? That's the kind of Mayavadis we have to deal with. Mixture of all of this. Social service, nationalist mentality, impersonalism coming from the Upanishads, and already conditioned souls, so envious of Krishna. That's where majority of the people belong. And this is addressed here. This is addressed here. This is modern Mayavada, hodgepodge of everything. Okay, so okay, now this is also important to understand. Why the Upanishads talk about impersonalism? Generally, people are attached to material form. So Karma Kanda tells them, you worship God to get something material. That is called religious materialism. Fine. They study the Vedas, the Karma Kanda section. And the Karma Kanda section says, you want to be happy in material world, you worship God, you worship demigods, and you'll be happy. That's religious materialism. Now they are frustrated of materialism. So then a part of the Vedas called Upanishad will say, no material form. Fine. Jnana Kanda. And then there is another section called Bhakti-sastri, known as Upasana Kanda, which will say God has a spiritual form, should engage in pure devotional service. So you can understand that the Upanishads, they help in transition. Transition from where to where? From material form to accepting spiritual form. Before, the transit point is, there is no form. There's a transit point. From material to spiritual, there's no material form. Right? People get stuck here and they don't go to the next level. Impersonalism is only transition. But they get stuck and they think this is the final goal. That's not the final goal. Okay, so we will stop here. Okay, we can just look at this also. So sometimes someone may ask, why do some scriptures promote demigod worship? So for someone who is in gross materialism, demigod worship is a step up. From demigod worship, that person will come to Sakama Bhakti. And from Sakama Bhakti, that person will come to Nishkama Bhakti. You know? Correct? That's why it's a part of the ladder. You grow slowly to the highest level. Demigod worship is beneficial for such kind of people. However, for those who are devotees, if they start doing demigod worship, Vaishnavas, if they start doing demigod worship, then it will be a step back, not a step forward, because they're already on a higher platform. So for them, it will be going back to a lower level. But for someone who is at the lowest level, for that person, it is like coming to a higher level. It's a step up. To give an example, there is a rebellious prince. This person has fought with his father, left the home, right? And is enjoying life independently, engaging in all kinds of sinful activities. So that's the example of gross materialism. The king cannot go meet the son because the son will not agree to follow him anymore. So the king sends his own man in disguise and tells them, You make friendship with my son. You become a good friend of my son. And whatever help he needs, you give him. But he should follow you. So that's like demigod worship. Work for king's minister. Fine. Slowly, the son, the prince comes to know this man who has been helping me in my bad days is actually a minister of my father. He works for my father. Means the demigods, they work for Krishna. So now, why should I not directly work for my father? But I still want a monthly salary. So that is a Kama Bhakta. Motivated work for the king. And after that, that person may start thinking, why should I expect a salary from my father? In fact, the whole property of my father is my property. And I should take care of this property just like my father would take care of this property. Let me become a responsible son of my father. So that's like Nishkama Bhakti, selfless service to father. Right? So the scriptures have so many examples how people worshipping demigods, they got promoted to worship of Lord Krishna or worship of Lord Vishnu. So many examples, full of examples, right? But you don't find any example given in the scriptures that they were worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna and then they glided down to worshipping demigods. No one takes that path. You don't find examples like that. Neither you find examples of some personalist becoming an impersonalist in the scripture. That example is not there. You'll always find examples of impersonalist becoming a personalist or a demigod worshipper becoming a worshipper of Krishna. So many examples. Vallabhacharya, Chandidas, Keshav Kashmiri, so many. They were worshipping demigods and then they came to worshipping Krishna. Like I'll tell you the story of Chandidas. So Chandidas, his name is Chandidas. You know why? Because he was worshipper of Kali. He was a worshipper of Kali. So Chandidas, he would worship Kali, and his brother was a Vaishnava who would worship Shaligram Shilas. You heard of Shaligram Shilas. They are representative manifestation of Lord Vishnu in the form of stone, found in a special river in Nepal, Gandaki. Shaligram Shilas, right? Non-different from Lord Vishnu. So his brother would worship Shaligram Shila, and Chandidas would worship Goddess Kali. So Chandidas, one day, for his worship, he collected very beautiful flowers. And his brother told, you have so many flowers, I have none. Why don't you give me some flowers to offer to my Shaligrams? And Chandidas refused. He denied. He said, no, it's for Kali. I worship Kali. She is supreme. So it's for her. So later, his brother, he just wished that these are so nice flowers. I wish I could offer them to Shaligram. Now, he could not offer them physically, but he offered them in his mind, right? In mind, he offered that such beautiful flowers are there. Let me offer it to Lord Vishnu. Just in the mind, he offered them. So because he offered them in his mind, first to Lord Vishnu, and then after that, Chandidas offered them to Goddess Kali, then suddenly Goddess Kali appeared in front of him. And Chandidas was saying, what's so special today? I've been worshipping you for ages. You never gave me darshan. And today you gave me darshan. So Kali said, I'm very happy today. And he said, why? So she said, because today you offered me Mahaprasada. He offered the flowers to Vishnu. And then you offered those flowers to me. So that's Mahaprasad. That's Vishnu Prasad. So first time you gave me Vishnu Prasad. And very happy. So when she said like this, then Chandidas understood, why am I worshipping Kali? Then I should worship Lord Vishnu. So in this way, there are so many incidents of demigod worship turning into worshipping Lord Vishnu. All right, we'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Others can put their hands down if they don't have a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I ask?
Yes, you can ask.
Yeah. Prabhuji, in the where you have shown Brahmavadis and Mayavadis, so and we have learned that Mayavadis are lower than Brahmavadis. So how do we see atheist, Prabhuji? They are above Mayavadis or below Mayavadis?
Mayavad is not different from atheism. Mayavad is as good as atheism. They are not different. So they both go to hell only. That's why Mayavad is called covert atheism. It's atheism. It's just that you don't accept yourself as an atheist.
Even in this hodgepodge model also, Prabhuji, we can say that these nationalist and social service class people who nowadays in modern India also we see that they don't worship and don't even follow their rituals what even their parents were doing. So they are also classified as atheist or no?
We don't know on what level they accept God. Some may have little faith that okay, they might be worshipping demigods. So atheist means one who outrightly denies God's existence. But if that person does not deny and accepts God in some form, then he's as good as atheist, just that we don't call him technically an atheist. Like someone says God does not exist. That's an atheist, correct? But then someone says God exists. He does not have hand. He does not have legs. He cannot see. He cannot speak. He cannot do anything. That's almost like telling God does not exist.
Yes.
So that's Mayavad.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Question is about being nationalist. If we don't protect our land, we lose the land to neighbors. They're always awaiting for it. Yes. So we should protect the land. There's nothing wrong about it. Like if you have a house, so you won't let anyone else just occupy your house, right? You are supposed to protect your house. You can't let the thieves enter your house and live there, isn't it? So similarly, we need to protect our land. But that land should not be protected as a nationalist. It should be protected as one's dharma. Right? Do the same activity, but then do it in a different consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
The activity is to be done, but in the right consciousness. Not because I worship the nation, so I should protect the nation. I worship, it's my dharma to protect it. So I protect it. Fine. Yeah, Mayavad and atheism is similar. I mentioned that. Satish Prabhu. Satish Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu, I raised my hand for reading.
Okay. Dev Prabhu.
It is fine to play sports for refreshment because as devotees we are told not to waste time and engage in devotional service more. And
Is it fine to play sports? There's nothing wrong if you play it occasionally to keep your body active. Like, people may run, people may go to gym, people may do some exercise. So for that reason, if you're playing it, it's okay. But the problem with playing sports is that with any sport, the mode of passion is too much strongly associated. So it's true, your body gets an exercise. But that passion which comes inside, that's very dangerous for a devotee. Because in a sport means what? You'll be always in the mood, I have to defeat the other person and I have to win. You take any sport, right? So that increases the mood of a conqueror, being a conqueror, a winner, seeing someone as enemy and friend. Foolishly, that person has done nothing wrong to me. And just for that sake of that game, I start seeing that person as my enemy. So that does a great danger to one's bhakti. If you are talking about advanced stages of devotional service. That's why if you want to give exercise to your body, there are more safer ways of doing that same thing rather than playing a sport. Understanding?
So it's better to avoid it or do it occasionally.
It's better to avoid it. Better to avoid it, because yes, it's fine. There's nothing wrong about it if it's helping you exercise. But then if you get into that zone, it's better to avoid it. Or you do it occasionally, or you find an alternative. You want to exercise your body, you do some physical exercise, you do some pranayam, some yoga, just do some walking. That's sufficient.
Surya Namaskar.
Right? Yes, Surya Namaskar. You can do such things. Fine. To people in modern times, if they just do their own work, they'll get good exercise. If they just learn to do their own work,
Household work is
household work, that is sufficient. That much
best,
exercise is sufficient for them. But they will not wrap their own bed sheet. They'll not clean their room. They cannot bend down to broom the floor, to mop the floor. Such things also they don't do. So let them start doing that much more. That is sufficient. Exercise is sufficient. Shri Kirtan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada Pranam. Prabhuji, a question around demigod worship. When we say demigod worship, we mean that we don't understand that there is Krishna, and we worship the demigods for material benefits. But my question is regarding if we pray to them, like we know that like Shiva is the Param Vaishnava, so we pray to them to imbibe that quality of service or devotion. Will that be also considered as demigod worship?
It won't be considered as demigod worship then, because you are not seeing them as then independent providers of your desires or wishes. You see them as dependent personalities, dependent on Krishna. So then that kind of demigod worship is not harmful, because you are doing it in the right knowledge, right? Seeing them as Vaishnavas or Vaishnavis. However, at certain stage, we'll discuss more in next class, which is tomorrow. However, at a certain stage, what happens is a person wants to then exclusively focus on one's own object of worship. Exclusively that. For everything and anything, I'll just depend on Krishna and no one else. Right? So that exclusiveness is a symbol of complete dedication and purity.
Got it.
That's called Ananya. Ananya means only one. For anything, I just depend on Krishna. That's all. Because the thing which anyone can give me, Krishna can also give. No.
Correct.
It's not that Krishna cannot give, so I have to go to someone else. Krishna has closed his shop, so I need to go to someone else. No, his shop is always open. He can give me anything which I want. Material also he can give. Spiritual also he can give.
Agreed. Yes,
fine.
Thank
Yes.
you, bro.
Hare Krishna. Srinivas Gopal.
Hare Krishna, Dhananjay Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had two questions. One you already answered now. And the second one is about the Purusharthas you mentioned. Does this applies for all ashramas and varnas and Vaishnavas also, or it is only for means who are not following this ashrams or varnas like that?
Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Yes.
It applies to anyone who follows Vedic civilization.
Yeah, because for a sannyasi or a brahmachari or devotees,
Moksha, no? Sannyasi is interested in moksha.
For devotees?
The devotees, they don't go for these four because they go for the fifth one, Prema Purushottamahan.
Prema Purushottama, yeah.
They go for the highest one. They want love of God.
Okay.
But then still these four things are present, no? A devotee also has a religious life. A devotee also engages in economic development, right? But that's not the primary concern then. But it's not that a devotee does not engage in. It doesn't mean now a devotee can become irreligious. A devotee also has to follow dharma. Right? Isn't it? But just that now he'll follow dharma not for moksha, but he'll follow dharma for prema.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, yes. But I could not figure out, like, for devotees and Vaishnavas, how the dharma and the artha will be based on dharma. I could not understand.
Artha based on dharma means you earn your livelihood in a religious manner.
Yeah. Okay.
For a devotee also, like for example, let's say someone is a sannyasi, or let's go take the example of sannyasi. Someone is a sannyasi. So that sannyasi also has to maintain his body, no?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct, isn't it? Huh? So now that sannyasi can do that. How? Go for begging for alms, bhiksha. That's the way he's going to do it, right? Go to different houses and ask for bhiksha. Huh? And whatever then he gets, then he will cook something, offer to Krishna and take. Fine. So that also he has to do in a religious manner, following dharma. What is the dharma? That he cannot beg from more than 3 houses.
Yeah.
Not that, he'll go to 50 houses and then he'll get so much food. Now I can have a feast today. No, he can only go to 3 houses. 1, 2, 3. Whatever you get in 3 houses, finished. That's all for today.
This
you're understanding. So this is dharma perspective.
Understood. Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji. But this does this apply for all the acts we do, or it is the whole? We should consider, like, for prasadam, like for artha we said.
It applies to all the acts we do, even in the realm of devotional service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cannot do irreligious activities. In devotional service, also we need to understand dharma. What is dharma?
But nowadays we don't know what is dharma itself.
Yeah, because we are not studying, no? So how will we know?
Okay.
We're not studying. If we study books like Mahabharata, if we study books like the Puranas, Ramayana itself, we'll come to know what is dharma of a man, of a woman, of a grihastha, of a brahmachari. We'll come to know. Then we should follow it once we know it.
But directly we are directed directly to the prema, the last stage.
Why it is done, Prabhu? Please try to understand. Because if I don't know this ultimate goal, and I still be a perfect human being, at the end, what will happen? I'm going to remain within the material world only, right? Correct? So what is done is, Srila Prabhupada's tactics is, first of all, let me teach you the highest goal. If you're convinced about it, then slowly, you can also learn the steps that you need to reach to that goal. Yeah. So that's why you see, when Srila Prabhupada meets people and he gives a talk to them, his talks are what? Take to Krishna consciousness movement, chant Hare Krishna, right? Isn't it? But then what he wanted for people, once you become a member of my movement, then you have to scrutinizingly study the books. And what is he written in the books? In the books, he has written about Varnashram Dharma. What is the Dharma of this? What is the Dharma of that? Right? So he has given those steps also. Now that, okay, now you understood the goal. Now that is the purpose of your life. Now you go by the process which is given in the book. Step by step, you make progress. So that's how one will get educated, one will come to know, one will start following. If Srila Prabhupada would have started preaching in this way, that he would teach people just their dharma, then people will get stuck there only. They'll never think about the next step. They'll just get stuck there. They will think this is the ultimate goal of life. Understanding?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Gunagrai Gaurang Prabhu. Sometimes he saw some Vaishnava gets permission to worship Lord Shiva. Now, we don't know from whom that Vaishnava asked and why did the spiritual master allow. There can be good reasons for it. So there's nothing wrong about it. If someone worships Lord Shiva, taking permission from a spiritual master, and the spiritual master understands that there's some specific reason, that's okay. But that's not the general process to be followed by everyone. There might be some special reason why which, like to give you an example. Now, let's say a devotee is there and that devotee is haunted by a ghost, right? Let's say, I'm giving you an example. And this ghost came upon this devotee because someone did the black magic upon it. Fine. And he's not a pure devotee. Therefore, if you are not pure devotee, then you can become victimized by ghostly elements. So now he has become a victim of that. And the person who did the magic was a black magic, not the white magic. It was black tantra, not white tantra, right? So now that kind of magic can be counteracted only by doing worship of some personalities like Lord Shiva or Goddess Kali or Chandi or whatever. Okay. So in such cases, just for that particular solution, someone's guru may tell a disciple that, for this particular number of days, you go through this ritual so that you can come out of this problem. Understanding? Just like you go to a shop, you want to buy a product. So you go to the shop with money, you give the money and you get your product. And after that, you forget the shopkeeper. You don't enter into a relationship with that shopkeeper. You don't become friends with that shopkeeper. You just got your work done and you finish. Like that, in some cases, very specific cases, a spiritual master is very knowledgeable, who knows what exactly is the problem, may prescribe a solution which is off the path and won't apply to the general mass. So that's a specific case. It doesn't mean everyone has to follow that path. You understand? For different situations in life, such solutions are there provided. Yes, Anit Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you said that we can protect, the soldiers can protect their country in case if the country is getting attacked. But then to motivate the soldiers, they do say Bharat Mata ki Jai. They do, say some nationalist things. Then how do we understand that?
So they have to motivate the soldiers to by speaking such things, because the consciousness of the soldiers is on that platform. Let's say a devotee is there in that situation who is a Vaishnava and is also fighting for the country. He's on the borderline, right? He doesn't need Bharat Mata ki Jai because he's not on that platform of consciousness.
So our Prime Minister...
For him, that inspiration is not needed.
So our Prime Minister, when he says Bharat Mata ki Jai and still he's a spiritual person, then how do we understand that?
So when someone has spirituality, doesn't mean that that person has pure spirituality. There are mixed levels of spirituality also. Right? So just because the Prime Minister is a spiritualist, he doesn't become a pure devotee because of that. Isn't it? It's a very different thing to be a pure devotee of Krishna and to have some devotion for Krishna, or to have some devotion for the Lord. It's a totally different thing. That kind of devotional service is commonly possible. We'll study this in Nectar of Devotion. To have mixed devotional attitude is commonly possible. It's not something great. It's called Samanya Bhakti. Rupa Goswami uses the word Samanya. Samanya means ordinary, general. So that kind of bhakti is general. There's nothing great about it. Any human being should have that kind of bhakti. That's natural, right? So if you don't have that, or someone doesn't have that, then that would be considered as abnormal thing. That how can you not have any bhakti for Bhagavan? You're getting everything from Bhagavan, but Krishna is providing you. So you should have some sentiments towards him. So to have that much is not so much glorified in the scriptures, because that's the beginning of human form of life. If you are a human, you should have that quality. Now, pure devotional service is something very high. Pure devotional is something, that mood, that attitude which purchases Krishna. Right? Which makes Krishna your servant. Of course, a devotee does not develop that attitude because he wants to make Krishna his or her servant. But that attitude is so pure, it is so much appreciated by Krishna that pure devotees becomes the master in some situations, and Krishna likes to become a servant of such devotee. So we should know that. We should know the difference between that level and this level. This is okay. It's a mixture of both. Some feelings for the country, some feelings for Bhagavan, some feelings for this, some feelings for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Next question. Tulsi Mataji, you have to clarify. I do not understand your question.
So Prabhu, in terms of the impersonalists, there is a group of impersonalists who believe in the Lord as being the Brahman effulgence, the light. But they also at the same time believe that Krishna is not the supreme person. They believe him to be like the best personality who's still living in the material world.
That is
so
Mayavad.
That's Mayavad.
Because they are thinking Krishna as a human, a very powerful human, extraordinary human, best human. But that's Mayavad, because ultimately you're bringing Krishna to the platform of human being.
Okay. All right. Understood. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dev Prabhu.
No, does astrology prediction works on devotees?
See, astrology prediction is not something which is a being predicting your future. It is your own past predicting your future. Right? You're getting it. It's your past which is predicting your future. Not there is a third person who is predicting your future and who's controlling your future. It's your past. So a devotee does not have a past. Has no. So you will see that also in the devotee's future. So it's not that for every single devotee, the past is completely wiped off. It depends on your intensity of Krishna consciousness. Fine. So astrology works. It works for everyone. It works for devotees also. But the thing is, Krishna has the magic wand. In case of a devotee, he can interfere and he can change the situations. That Krishna can do. Like, let's say you are supposed to go through some experience today. So Krishna can immediately interfere and change because you are practicing Krishna consciousness. But it doesn't mean that that situation will not come only in your life, because you have a past. So that past will also give you according future, So that situation will be generated. But we may get extra help of Krishna in that situation to overcome that situation. But that situation will come. You cannot say it will not be there. It will be cleared away. Not always. Okay. Any other question?
Krishna Prabhu, in Mantra 11, there is a line where it says that in our pure spiritual form, free from all material contamination, real enjoyment of the senses is possible. Can you explain on this? How is it possible?
There are two kinds of senses. One is external senses and the other are internal senses. Our external senses get enjoyment from material experience. Our internal senses get enjoyment from our spiritual experiences. So as long as we are busy in material experiences, we are losing out on spiritual experiences. So we are getting sense enjoyment, but on material platform, not on spiritual platform. I'm missing on my spiritual sense gratification or spiritual sense enjoyment. So here it is said that when you stop that sense gratification on material platform, then you can become awakened to the sense enjoyment on the spiritual platform. Like, to give an example, if to me things in this world look beautiful, then to me Krishna will not look beautiful. But when I understand that things in this world appear to be beautiful, but actually they are not beautiful, because today they are beautiful, tomorrow they will not be. Right? When I understand the flimsy nature of the beauty in this world, then now when I see Krishna, I'll be able to appreciate the true beauty of Krishna. And that will bring me spiritual satisfaction.
But Prabhuji, you can look at beautiful things and also say that this is the beautiful thing that Krishna has created.
Yes, because your definition of beauty is at that level. So you start from that level. Because for me, that's beauty. For me, that is beauty. So I appreciate it. But isn't the perception of beauty a relative experience? It is, no? Correct? It's a relative experience. What appears beautiful to me, to some other person, that may be very ugly looking. Right? It's not an absolute experience. What looks good to you may not be good for someone else. And what is good for that person may not be good for you. So I see something good. I have emotions attached to it. Just to make my emotions more Krishna conscious, let me appreciate that beauty as a part of Krishna's beauty. That's just a step, progressive step, but that's not the ultimate realization.
So if I appreciate something in Vrindavan, that is not...
You appreciate it anywhere, whether it's Vrindavan, it's outside Vrindavan, anywhere, right? Anywhere. That concept is for applicable everywhere. That you see everything as an energy of Krishna or manifestation of Krishna's energy, and you appreciate it. But that doesn't mean just appreciating it means I have gone through that experience of seeing Krishna. It's not on the same level. Because when I will actually be able to appreciate Krishna's beauty by seeing that beauty, then everything else that I see will appear so pale in front of that. So dull in front of that. Because I have not seen that yet. So whatever I see now as beautiful, because I want to be Krishna conscious, I see that as a thing connected to Krishna, part of Krishna. It's more of a perception here. It's not the reality. It's a perception. Because that's a healthy perception for making progress in Krishna consciousness, I take that perception.
So having learned that today, so we can develop this consciousness. Okay, this is beautiful, but there's something else more beautiful, and we pine for that.
Yes, it is true. No, this is not ultimately beautiful. Krishna is much more beautiful than that. It's not ultimately beautiful. It has some beauty, and that also
it is about Krishna.
It is.
I mean, everything in this world is a reflection of the spiritual world, and it is a part of Krishna.
World is a reflection of the spiritual world. Yes, it is true. But then it is not replacing Krishna. It's only a reflection of Krishna. It's not a replacement for Krishna. So let's say you have Krishna in front of you and you have Krishna's reflection in front of you. What will you choose?
Krishna.
Why?
Krishna. Because he's real.
It is Krishna, not the reflection, right? So if you're too hungry, you can be happy just looking at food. But if you get food, then it will be foolishness to say, no, I have already filled my stomach looking at it.
Now we are hungry.
Right.
It's true.
If you're hungry, you can just look at food and be satisfied. At least let me look at it. But if you get it and then you say, no, it's better to look at it than to eat it, then you're a fool. So similarly, because I don't see Krishna, fine, let me see things in relationship to Krishna. But once I see Krishna, then reflection is reflection and reality is reality.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for making us understand this.
Hare Krishna. Anisha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You talk about demigod worshippers, that they, if they die, they will go to their lok. Specific, if they worship Brahma, they will go to Brahma Loka. So what about devotees? That once, if a devotee died or departed away from this material world, we said that they will go to the Krishna Loka or Nitya Pravesh kehte hain. So you also mentioned that Vaishnavis take birth again to worship Lord Krishna. So what about that case? If we worship, so where we will go? We will take birth again. If someone, I heard in some lectures that if someone die in early age, 10 or 20, so in next birth, he or she will continue in 21 years of age. Continue karenge. So
no, that what you heard must be something like this, that let's say you practice Krishna consciousness for 10 years, 20 years, and then you die. Then next life when you're born again, then you continue from that level of your practice. You know, progressive. Because you did not complete your Krishna consciousness, you will be born again to complete Krishna consciousness. Now, where will one go? It depends on, in one consciousness I die. If I die as a pure devotee of Krishna, I have a different destination. If I die as a mixed devotee of Krishna, I have a different destination. Not all devotees are at the same level, so their destination is also not same. If one is completely purified, then that person goes to Krishna Loka. If someone is not completely purified, then that person is born again to become completely purified.
what are the indications, like
What are the indications? We'll study that in Nectar of Devotion. Pure devotional service, they explain in that book. What are the characteristics of a pure devotee of Krishna? Right? We'll study it there. Fine. So for now, we can assume, and it won't be a wrong assumption, that I'm not a pure devotee of Krishna. All right. And when you read Nectar of Devotion, then that assumption will become your conviction, that I'm not a pure devotee of Krishna. All right. Fine. Let's stop here. See you.